Alright, let's talk about a place that's pretty amazing. Burkina Faso. The name Burkina Faso actually means land of incorruptible people. Or, land of upright men. Talk about setting a high bar, right? This name wasn't just pulled out of a hat. It was chosen by Thomas Sankara, a revolutionary leader. He wanted a name that reflected the spirit of the people, a spirit of dignity, integrity, and resistance. Burkina Faso's story is packed with moments of defiance. So when we dive into the history of this West African nation, remember that name, Land of Incorruptible People. It's not just a geographical label on a map, it's a clue, a hint, a foreshadowing of the stories to come. These aren't people who just go with the flow when the flow is trying to drown them. They build a raft, or punch the flow in the face. Metaphorically, of course. So buckle up, because this is a story of courage, defiance, and a whole lot of you can't keep us down. Before the French showed up, Burkina Faso was home to well-organized societies. Think of the Mossi kingdoms, for example. These guys had been around for centuries. They had their own systems, their own rulers, their own way of doing things. They weren't just sitting around waiting for someone to bring them croissants and colonialism. Then, in the late 19th century, the French colonial empire started sniffing around. It was part of that whole scramble for Africa thing. The French, British, Belgians, everyone wanted a piece of the pie. The arrival of the French wasn't exactly met with open arms and a welcome parade. Imagine someone just walking into your house and saying, "Nice place, I'm redecorating." The local communities and kingdoms in present-day Burkina Faso definitely had objections. The French military expeditions pushed their way in, bit by bit. They were looking to control trade routes, resources, and, well, people. The local populations understandably were like, "Excuse me?" This marked the beginning of a long, tough period. A period where the land of upright people would be seriously tested. But as we'll see, tested doesn't mean defeated. Defiance was there from the very start. Section 4. Big Trouble in Little Volta, Major Rebellions and Their Leaders. Those early sparks of resistance, they started to catch fire. One of the biggest flare-ups was the Volta Bani War. This wasn't just a minor disagreement, this was a full-blown rebellion. It happened between 1915 and 1916, right in the middle of World War I. The French were a bit distracted, with that whole global conflict, and various groups in the western part of what was then Upper Volta decided, hey, perfect timing. It was a coalition of different peoples, united against forced recruitment and heavy taxation. Leaders emerged during these struggles, real heroes of the resistance. Figures like Dassa, a BWA leader, became symbols of defiance. He and others managed to rally thousands of fighters. They used their knowledge of the land, their courage, and whatever weapons they could find. The French, of course, didn't take this lying down. They responded with overwhelming force, as colonial powers tend to do. The suppression of the Volta Bani War was brutal. But even in defeat, the message was sent. The spirit of resistance wasn't extinguished, it just went underground for a bit. It showed that the people were willing to fight and die for their freedom. Section 5. The Long Road to Freedom, Shaking Off the Colonial Chains. Fast forward a bit, past the World Wars. The world was changing. After World War II, the whole idea of colonialism started to look really, really bad. Across Africa and Asia, people were demanding independence. The winds of change were blowing, and they were blowing strong. In Upper Volta, as Burkina Faso was then called by the French, that wind was picking up speed. The sacrifices of earlier generations weren't forgotten. The desire for self-rule was stronger than ever. Political movements started to take shape. People weren't just fighting in the bush anymore, they were organizing. They formed political parties, trade unions, and associations. Leaders like Maurice Yameogo, Daniel Uezen Coulibaly, and others stepped up. They navigated the tricky political landscape, pushing for more autonomy, then for full independence. The French, facing pressure from all sides and within their colonies, started to realize the game was up. For Upper Volta, that magic day came on August 5, 1960. Independence, freedom, time to party like it's 1960. The colonial flag came down and a new national flag went up. Section 6. Post-independence puzzles, new battles, same spirit. So, Upper Volta is independent. Hooray! But now what? The early years were a bit like a political roller coaster. There were coups, changes in government, and a lot of figuring things out. The country faced the huge task of nation building, often with limited resources. The spirit of resistance had to adapt from fighting colonizers to building a stable, prosperous nation. Then came a guy who really shook things up. Captain Thomas Sankara. He came to power in 1983, and boom, things got interesting. He renamed the country Burkina Faso, Land of Incorruptible People. Sankara was all about self-reliance, fighting corruption, and standing up to neo-colonialism. He pushed for food, self-sufficiency, women's rights, mass vaccinations. His vision was radical, inspiring, and for some, a little bit scary. Sankara's time in power was revolutionary, but tragically short. He was assassinated in 1987, a huge blow to the country and to Pan-African hopes. His death left a massive void, and many felt his revolution was cut short. But his ideas, his spirit, they didn't just disappear. He became an icon of resistance, not just in Burkina Faso, but across Africa. His call for dignity and self-determination continued to resonate. The struggle for the soul of the nation, for the kind of future Sankara envisioned, continued. It showed that even internal battles required that same upright spirit. Section 7. The unbreakable spirit, resilience, hope, and the future. So what's the takeaway from all this history of resistance in Burkina Faso? It's that these folks have an absolutely unbreakable spirit. They've faced colonialism, internal struggles, poverty, and now, new security challenges. Extremist groups have been causing serious problems in the Sahel region, including Burkina Faso. This is a new, complex fight, a resistance against forces trying to destabilize their nation. And yet, through it all, the Burkinabé people continue to endure, to strive. It's like they have a national motto of, "We don't do giving up." This resilience isn't just about surviving, it's about actively working for a better future. You see it in the community groups, the artists, the entrepreneurs, the everyday people. They are constantly finding ways to build, to create, to hope. Even when things are incredibly tough, there's a determination there. They are fighting for peace, for development, for the chance to live their lives in dignity. It's a daily act of resistance against despair and cynicism. The challenges are real, no doubt about it. Building a stable, secure, and prosperous nation is hard work. But if history teaches us anything about Burkina Faso, it's that underestimating their resolve is a mistake. They have a legacy of overcoming incredible odds. The land of incorruptible people is still writing its story.